Sometimes the news cycle means that we spend a fairly large amount of time in any given week focusing on brand new vehicles that are coming to market. And that's because we've either had several big launches or because a brand new or high-end car has been in the news a lot. And for the last few weeks, I've been acutely aware that we've covered basically high-end, high-priced cars. Tesla, Lucid, and a few others are featured fairly heavily, and even the new car launch from this week in the form of the ID.4, a car which will cost less than many other new EVs out there, is still well out of the reach for many car buyers. Today, I figured we'd do something a little different. Look at the used car market and ask, after several years of waiting, if it's finally possible to get yourself an electric car used for less than $6,000. And the good news is that it totally is, in the US at least. Sure, cars aren't always going to be nearby and the choice is a little limited, but we're going to take another quick look and lay out what kind of car you can expect for that kind of money. I know we've done this video before, but it's always changing. While I can't go through every used car market globally, I've taken a quick look at both the Canadian market, where a similar amount of money to $6,000 is about 7,800 Canadian dollars, and the UK market, where we'll be looking at about 5,000 quid for a similar spend. In those two markets, it's also totally possible to find a car at bargain basement prices to get you off fossil fuels and onto a clean electric ride. We're going to go through the caveats of the choices available in a second, but for now, I do feel I need to answer those in other markets who may wonder why I haven't covered their home country. Although I do speak a little German, a little French, some Spanish, and a little Italian, I haven't covered mainland Europe because while I can buy a drink in most European countries, say, haben Sie einen Sonnenbrille für meinen Brüllebitter in Germany, ask an Italian to do something senza amazzazzi, and even have a conversation halfway up a Swiss mountain in a half Swiss French, half Swiss German accent about how pretty a farmer's cows are, I'm not really sure that my skills relate to buying a car. And yes, all of those examples do come from my days as a musician touring Europe. Please, at the end of this video, do let me know if I've missed some good deals in your home country, and feel free to post the comment in your native tongue so that other people from your country can read and figure out where to buy a good EV. As to other English-speaking countries, here I stuck with ones where I know there's been at least some sales of EVs for enough years to make second-hand EVs a thing. I looked at the New Zealand market, where there were just a total of 4 electric cars nationwide that were under the 9,000 Kiwi dollar price point I set for this video. They were all Nissan Leafs. I also looked at Australia, where there's not a single used electric car I can find for sale within the price point, and only one priced at under 10,000 Australian dollars, a Mitsubishi i-miev in New South Wales, but even that was significantly more than the 8,400 Australian dollar limit that this video requires. And lest I not forget our friends in Ireland, I also looked there, where $6,000 equates to about 5,000 euro. Sadly though, like New Zealand and Australia, there are slim pickings, but perhaps there is a possibility to import from the UK. I'm not sure how that works though, so do not come chasing after me if that's not possible. So back to what is available in English language countries where there is at least some choice in the marketplace, which is essentially the UK, the US, and Canada. Unsurprisingly, the 3 cars that come up again and again in all 3 countries are the Nissan Leaf, which has now been in production for a decade, and thus there are some older, cheaper examples floating around for decently low prices, the Mitsubishi i-miev and its associated rebranded siblings, the Peugeot Ion and Citroën C0 in Europe, and the Smart fortwo ED in Canada and the US. As a side, I find it bizarre that the Smart fortwo ED isn't selling for bargain basement pricing in Europe yet, especially considering how popular the smart car is. But that might be keeping prices higher, so go figure. In the US, we also see a handful of Fiat 500es now coming in under the $6,000 price point, some even as low as $5,000, as well as the occasional Chevrolet Spark EV, Ford Focus EV, and occasional first-generation Chevrolet Volt. So let's look at each of these vehicles, detail some of their strengths and weaknesses, and give you some things to bear in mind when considering buying them as a used EV. Today I'm feeling a bit contrary, so let's go backwards. The one or two used Chevrolet Volts I saw for sale within this price bracket were cars with over 100,000 miles on the clock. And of course, they are also technically range-extended electric vehicles, so not fully electric. But because they were engineered with a healthy amount of hidden battery capacity, the batteries in the Chevrolet Volt suffer very little battery degradation, if at all, and even at 100,000 miles or more, you should be getting as new range or close from a full charge. Having an internal combustion engine on board means that there is more to go wrong long term, but if you need less than 30 or 40 miles of EV range per day, this could be a great option for you, especially as we've heard of Volts going for 250,000 miles or more with no noticeable problems with either their drivetrain or their battery packs. Next, let's look at the Ford Focus EV. While the Ford Focus EV looks like any other Focus of its generation, the electric version is a compromise, with some of its battery pack shoehorned into the load bay area at the rear. This means you have a lot less luggage capability than an internal combustion engine Ford Focus, and folding down the rear seats to get large items in won't have the same effect as it will be in the ICE version. The Ford Focus EV was available with DC quick charging as an optional extra, so double check to see if the one that you are looking at has it or not. Range isn't great, think 70 miles or so, and battery degradation is a concern with these as it is with the Nissan Leaf. Sadly, I have no first-hand experience with the Ford Focus EV, save for one time on a press drive. However, I can advise that the Focus drives well enough, but it's not a particularly exciting vehicle. I do, however, have a lot more experience with the Chevrolet Spark EV, having spent significant time in one when I was considering buying one myself, as well as when I was teaching my friend to drive hers, which I helped her buy used. The Chevrolet Spark EV is a little pocket rocket of fun with decent performance for its size, and by that, I mean that it will break traction incredibly eagerly for some hot hatch fun. Frankly, it is everything that the petrol Spark isn't. Yes, the interior is cheap, and you will notice that the trim doesn't age well, both inside and out. But the mechanics of the Spark EV are totally solid. The car is planted, responsive to drive, and was available with DC Quick Charge as an optional extra. However, some DC Quick Charge stations don't play nice with the Spark EV, and the onboard charger is only 3.3 kilowatts. Battery capacity depends on the year of the Spark EV you buy, but battery degradation doesn't appear to be a major issue. And even though the battery pack capacity changed between model years, overall range is about 65 and 85 miles, depending on how you drive. The Fiat 500e is an equally hilarious drive as the Spark EV and embodies everything behind the wheel that an electric hot hatch could be. They too don't seem to have any issues with battery degradation, but their limited 70-mile or so range in average conditions and lack of DC quick charging means you really should only get one if you're happy with a small range every day. As a first-time car for someone in a busy city or a runabout second car, it is ideal. Again, the Fiat 500e is on the list of cars I've considered buying in the past. I should also reiterate that both the Spark EV and 500e have liquid-cooled battery packs, which helps explain why they are much less prone to battery degradation issues than some of the cars on this list. Next, let's look at the Smart fortwo ED, a small city car that's not going to be very popular with most American buyers, but which seems to be in abundance at the price point we're talking about in Quebec, Canada. The Smart fortwo is best suited to city life, where it can zoom in and out of traffic, park almost anywhere, and be totally stylish while doing so. Like the 500e, it does not have rapid charging in North America, although three-phase AC charging was available in Europe that was pretty quick, so bear that in mind before falling in love with this small but perfectly formed car. I used to actually own a smart car, although not the electric version, and I would totally go with an electric one today, if I didn't need to tow things, and I didn't have two medium-sized dogs. Which leaves us with the two most popular sub-$6,000 electric cars for sale today, the Mitsubishi or i-miev and the Nissan Leaf. Shaped like a little poached egg, the Mitsubishi i-miev is very much a range-limited vehicle with between 50 and 65 miles of range easily achievable depending on how you drive, assuming the battery is in good condition. Unlike some of the cars on this list, however, DC quick charging did come as standard, I think, so if you live somewhere with lots of CHAdeMO DC quick charging stations, you should be good to just keep on going. But the i-miev is definitely not a long-distance road tripper, not in North America and not in Europe. The i-miev in the US and Canada is larger than the one in Europe, which in turn is larger than the Japanese version. This is because of crash test requirements in each market forcing the i-miev to change its various body components. And I note this not because I think it makes any day-to-day difference to ownership, but because when you're buying used car parts for a used EV, it's often tempting to try and shop outside of your home market to find more affordable parts. In Europe, the i-miev was available rebadged as a Citroën C0 or Peugeot Ion, each of which had different interiors. They also lacked a certain drive mode found in the i-miev, but as our buddy Gavin Kiwi EV Shoebridge showcased many years ago, you can add that mode to either of the French i-miev variants with a little DIY skill and patience. Without an active liquid-cooled battery management system, this car does have battery degradation issues over time, so I'd recommend this again as only a runabout car with occasional longer distance use. Finally, the most popular car on the used EV market is of course the Nissan Leaf. Having owned two of these myself, I can attest to how well they're built in terms of finish and trim, but that battery pack is a major source of pain for many owners, especially in hot climates. The higher mileage a Leaf, the less likely it is to have a healthy battery pack, and battery degradation is a major headache. However, Nissan was rather helpful in this regard when designing the Leaf, and all Leafs have a capacity gauge on the dash to let you know how healthy the car's battery pack is. The battery gauge is the shorter ring of LED segments, in case you were wondering. Nissan Leafs were available with or without rapid charging and have been available with a variety of onboard charging options. Despite the pack issues though, the Leaf has proven itself a reliable car for the most part, and the abundance of vehicles means parts aren't an issue. And if you are looking to replace that battery pack in the future, well, Nissan will charge you an arm and a leg, or more, maybe 2 legs. There are now more third-party suppliers for the Leaf than any other electric car out there. The Leaf is a fantastic choice if you want a moderately sized EV that can still perform well as a day-to-day driver with occasional long-distance trip capabilities, if it's equipped with DC quick charging. However, the range of early Leafs isn't great, and you really need to take the Leaf Spy app with you when looking at a used Leaf to figure out what the battery is doing. There is a link above if you want to find out more about that app and how it works. Which brings me to the conclusion. Which car would I personally buy with that money? In the US, assuming I didn't need the extra space offered by the Leaf, I would choose the Chevrolet Spark EV every time for round-town fun and hilarity. Tyres are a little tricky to get hold of. I believe there's only a couple of brands which make tyres that fit, and front and rear tyres are different sizes, which adds to complexity. But the car itself, if you can get a DC quick charge model, can hold its own, is no nonsense, and is a hoot to drive. Otherwise, well, I think it's going to be the Leaf for longer distance capabilities, or the Fiat 500e or Smart fortwo if all I want is a commuter to get to and from work without ever going long distance. Simply put, if someone gave me the money right now, I would choose any of these as a daily driver today. But as always, you should, if possible, check out any car yourself before buying, and ask a local EV driving friend to come and check it out with you if you're unsure of what to look for. Oh, and just like any other used car out there, be sure to check for accident damage, any necessary recall or service work has been done, and insist on a full charge test drive to see just how the range plays out in the real world. That's it for today's video. As always, thanks to the folks on my right for being our $15 to $49 a month Patreon supporters. Special thanks to our $50 a month Patreon supporters. That's John Lyons, Regine Fellows and Jeffrey Songster. And our deepest gratitude to our $100 a month Patreon supporters, Marcel Ward, Reggie Watts, JP Fagerback and Sean Udea. If you would like to join all of these Patreon supporters and become one yourself, you can follow the link below to do that, or you'll also find a donation link through Ko-fi or Bitcoin to support the channel. There's also a link to our free Discord server, so sign up and come and join in the fun, chat to the team and other fans. And don't forget to check out our new store with t-shirts and other merch, some of which have a Halloween theme, just in time for the holiday. After the names have finished scrolling, you'll see a suggestion for a new video to watch, so please consider watching it if you haven't, and I will be back very soon. Thanks for joining me, and as always, keep evolving!